It was just another ordinary Thursday afternoon, until it wasn't. Daniel Carter, a 42-year-old self-made millionaire known for his sharp business mind and strict routine, decided to leave the office a few hours early. No warning, no calls. He simply told his assistant he needed a break and drove home without his usual driver. What started as a quiet impulse would soon unravel his world in a way he never expected. Daniel's mansion, tucked away in a quiet, gated neighborhood, stood silent as he pulled into the driveway. He noticed nothing strange at first. The front door was locked, the lights were dim, and everything seemed perfectly normal. But as he stepped inside, something didn't sit right. It was subtle, a faint whisper of perfume that didn't belong, a pair of shoes by the stairs he didn't recognize, and a jacket hanging by the door that definitely wasn't his. His footsteps slowed as he walked deeper into the house. The silence around him felt too heavy, too forced. Then, just as he reached the hallway leading to the living room, he heard it, a soft laugh, muffled, coming from a room that should have been empty. He froze. That laugh didn't belong to him, and it certainly wasn't part of his afternoon plan. Who was in his home? Why was he hearing voices in a place that was supposed to be empty? And what would he find if he followed the sound? What Daniel uncovered in the next few minutes would shake everything he thought he knew about his life, his relationships, and the people he trusted the most. But before we reveal what happened next, let's rewind a little, because to understand the shock he felt that day, you need to know what kind of life he was living, and who he was living it with. Daniel Carter wasn't just any businessman. He had built his empire from the ground up, starting with a small tech startup in his late 20s. Within a decade, he was running one of the fastest-growing software companies in the country. With success came luxury, an 8-bedroom house, high-end cars, business-class flights, and every comfort money could buy. But for all the wealth, Daniel kept a low profile. He valued privacy, loyalty, and routine. His circle was small: his wife, Melissa, his longtime friend and business partner, Eric, and a few trusted employees. Melissa had been by his side for 7 years. She was elegant, smart, and seemed to understand the pressures of his fast-paced world. Their relationship, though calm on the surface, had changed over time. Lately, Daniel had felt a quiet distance between them. Long conversations had turned into short texts, shared dinners into separate schedules. But he chopped it up to work stress, hers and his. Melissa was a part-time interior designer who mostly worked from home. She said she liked having the house to herself. Daniel believed her, until now. Standing alone in his hallway, listening to that quiet laughter behind a closed door, his mind raced. The smell of unfamiliar cologne hung faintly in the air. A laptop bag rested on the edge of the couch, definitely not his. Everything in him said to barge in, demand answers, face it all head-on. But instead, he took a slow breath and stepped back. He needed to think. Who was in his home? And more importantly, why were they there when they thought he wouldn't be? He glanced at the family photos on the wall, suddenly noticing how different everything felt. Something deeper was happening here, and Daniel was only beginning to see the cracks. What was Melissa hiding? And how long had it been going on? Daniel moved quietly down the hallway, every step feeling heavier than the last. The soft murmur of voices was clearer now, one male, one female. He recognized Melissa's tone, light and playful in a way he hadn't heard in months. The man's voice, though muffled, had a relaxed confidence to it. Daniel couldn't place it, but something about it felt oddly familiar. He stopped just before the doorway, heart pounding, unsure whether to listen or walk away. Instead, he reached for his phone and snapped a quick photo of the laptop bag. Evidence, just in case. Something about this felt deeper than a simple misunderstanding. Back in his study, Daniel sat down and tried to steady his thoughts. He couldn't jump to conclusions. Not yet. But the timing was too strange. Just 3 days ago, Eric, his business partner, had asked him some unusual questions about Melissa. Casual on the surface, but probing. At the time, Daniel had brushed it off. Now he replayed that conversation in his mind, word for word. Was Eric just being nosy, or was there something more going on? His phone buzzed. A message from Eric. Asterisk, everything good on your end. Thought you'd still be at the office. Asterisk. The timing felt off, too precise. Daniel didn't reply. As questions piled up, so did the doubt. Was Melissa hiding something on her own, or was someone close to them helping her? The more he thought about it, the more connections began to form in his mind. The late-night texts Melissa never explained, the locked drawer in her home office, the sudden increase in her shopping trips despite saying she was cutting back. Daniel knew he needed answers, but he also knew one wrong move could blow everything open. Something was unraveling, and this wasn't just about trust anymore, it was about truth, and what it might cost him to find it. The next morning, Daniel left the house before sunrise, saying nothing to Melissa. She didn't even notice, too busy on a call, laughing at something he couldn't hear. He didn't ask questions. He just watched her closely, quietly, and drove off. But he didn't go to the office. Instead, he parked near a coffee shop 2 blocks from the house, laptop open, mind racing. He had one goal now: find out the truth. First, he checked the photo of the laptop bag again. After zooming in, he caught a logo stitched near the zipper. It was the same brand Eric always used, the one he bragged about during board meetings. That alone wasn't proof, but it pushed Daniel deeper into suspicion. He searched through Melissa's social media accounts, looking for anything he'd missed. Most of her recent posts were harmless: home decor, smoothies, vacation throwbacks. But then he noticed something strange. A tagged photo from a friend's party a few weeks ago. Melissa was there, smiling, dressed in a way she hadn't for him in years. And right behind her, half hidden, was Eric. No tag, no mention, but it was him. Daniel felt a cold chill run through him. The final piece came from the security system. Though Melissa didn't know it, Daniel had recently upgraded the software to send backups to his cloud. Footage from 2 nights ago showed Melissa at the door, opening it just past midnight. A man stepped inside. The footage was grainy, but the way she hugged him, it wasn't casual. It was familiar. Now Daniel was staring at a moment he couldn't ignore. His wife, his best friend, his home. The 3 things he trusted most, now wrapped in silence and secrets. And he knew that the next time he walked through that front door, everything could change. Just as Daniel was piecing together what he thought was the full picture, another unexpected detail turned everything on its head. While reviewing more of the home security footage, this time from 2 weeks earlier, he noticed something that didn't make sense. It wasn't Eric at the door that night. It was someone else. Same build, different gait. The man wore a cap pulled low, but Daniel could tell it wasn't Eric, and yet Melissa greeted him the same way. Another late-night visit, another embrace. His gut twisted. This wasn't about just one man. It was something bigger, deeper, maybe even more dangerous. Now Daniel wasn't just betrayed. He was in the dark completely. Was Melissa leading a double life? Was she being threatened? Or was she hiding something far worse than an affair? The questions came faster than answers, and then the second twist hit him harder than the first. Later that day, while he sat parked outside his office, one of his senior accountants called him. Something was off in the company's financials. A large transfer had been made from a private company account, one Daniel hadn't authorized. It was flagged as routine, but the recipient account, it was under a name he didn't recognize. A name linked to an old interior design business Melissa once claimed she shut down years ago. Daniel's heart pounded. His personal life wasn't the only thing being tampered with. Now his business, his legacy, was in question. And suddenly, the idea of Eric's involvement didn't seem so far-fetched again. Were they working together, or was Melissa using both of them? The stakes had just skyrocketed. This wasn't just about trust anymore. It was about control, manipulation, and possibly betrayal on multiple fronts. And the truth, it was slipping through his fingers faster than he could catch it. Daniel knew he couldn't wait any longer. That night, he walked into the house with a calmness that didn't match the storm inside him. Melissa was in the kitchen, casually scrolling on her phone. She looked up, surprised. "Home early again?" she asked with a nervous smile. But Daniel didn't answer. He placed a folder on the table, security footage, transaction records, the photo from the party, and a copy of the transfer to the mystery account. Her face went pale. "You want to tell me what's going on?" he asked quietly. There was no anger in his voice, just exhaustion. Melissa didn't deny it. She sat down slowly, hands shaking. "It's not what you think," she started. "I wasn't cheating. Not exactly. I got in over my head, financially. That old business, my design firm, I restarted it behind your back. I needed help. I made deals. Bad ones. The money I took, it was to cover debts." Daniel's mind raced. "And the men in the videos?" "One of them is an investor I shouldn't have trusted," she said. "The other was sent to remind me of what I owe." Daniel felt a strange mix of relief and betrayal. So Eric wasn't involved, at least not in the way he thought. But just as he started to process it all, the final twist landed. The next morning, Daniel checked the business accounts again, only to find another withdrawal made just hours earlier. But this time, it wasn't from Melissa's side. It was Eric. A second account hidden. A trail that pointed straight to his name. Eric had covered his tracks well, but not well enough. Turns out, Daniel had been right the first time. He just didn't know how deep the game really went, or how close the people playing it were. Daniel didn't confront Eric right away. He needed to be sure. No more guessing, no more assumptions. He hired a private auditor, someone completely outside the company. Within days, the truth was laid bare. Eric had been slowly siphoning funds through a shell company tied to a consulting firm. It had started small, just a few thousand here and there. But over time, it added up to nearly $500,000. While Daniel had been distracted by Melissa's secrecy, his closest friend had been stealing from under his nose. With the evidence in hand, Daniel scheduled a quiet meeting with Eric at the office. There were no raised voices, no dramatic scene. Just facts, paperwork, and a termination letter. Eric didn't fight it. He simply nodded, knowing he'd been caught, and walked out without a word. That silence was heavier than any argument. Back home, things with Melissa didn't magically fix themselves, but they didn't fall apart either. She admitted everything, apologized for the lies, and offered to return what she could. They agreed to take space. No lawyers yet, just time. Trust wasn't going to rebuild overnight, and Daniel needed to figure out who he was without all the noise. Weeks later, sitting alone in his home office, Daniel looked at the same family photos he once paused in front of. They hadn't changed, but he had. The man who once thought he had control over everything now understood how easily it could all slip away. Wealth, business, even relationships, they were fragile, more than he ever wanted to believe. But in losing trust, he found clarity. He learned that betrayal doesn't always come in loud, obvious ways. Sometimes it hides behind smiles, partnerships, and late-night conversations. And when it all falls apart, you don't just rebuild, you decide who's worth rebuilding with.